Hello everybody, it's Captain Trucker. Welcome back to the channel and Happy New Year to everybody. We're in the new year, it's 2025. Today's video I want to talk about just sort of my 2 cents about moving to the Philippines in 2025. I'm not really one to give advice, but I just want to give some of my experiences. We'll talk about some of the expectations we might have in terms of environment and budget, a little bit of budget stuff, kind of stuff to avoid. But anyway, so I've been coming to the Philippines for like 7 years back and forth. And, you know, everybody's experience in the Philippines can vary. I mean, it's a country that's quite large. It's got a population of 111 plus million people. So it's not really a one-size-fits-all situation. I mean, people go through all sorts of different things out here, and they have a lot of different types of experiences, and that's a fact. So I think, you know, like the biggest thing, foreigners, they watch vlogs and they want to start a new life, they want to retire. And you know, most people want to retire like kings and live well and all that. And yeah, you can like save money if you move out here, that's true. But I've always said, like, don't move to the Philippines just to save money. Because if you're in that situation, you know, you might be grotesquely disappointed. There's a lot of expats out here, and like not all of them are the happiest campers alive, so to speak. You know, sometimes when people move out here, they've lived like problematic lives, troubled lives. And by retirement, you know, a lot of people have been through different traumas in life, divorces, change of careers, loss of careers. Maybe their children have grown up and left them and everything. And, you know, a lot of men come out here, it's sort of like a last-ditch place for them to rest their head. And you know, men who have experienced traumas and whatnot, sometimes they can run into trouble in these countries. Like, and I just posted a video actually talking about like some of the horror stories that some expats have experienced out here, like in bad situations. I didn't do that to be like overly negative. It's more to the point that I think we have a responsibility as vloggers to kind of give the real. I mean, it's not really my responsibility to be some like sycophant for the Philippines and like do an endless promotion and invite thousands of people to move out here. Like, I'm not sure that's appropriate either, right? So, you know, I try to give a good balance. You can absolutely live a great life out here. You know, a lot of it depends on the situation you're in, your girlfriend, your wife. And also, the reality is how much money you have, okay? Now, you don't need tons of money to have options out here, but you do need some. I've always said, like, you know, $2,000 a month is usually a good budget, at least. And I know there's like tons of budget videos and so forth, but you do have to have money coming in. The most important thing that I've learned out here is having a good balance of environment, okay? So for me, I can't stay in the provinces full-time. I can't stay in the city full-time. I can't stay at the beach full-time. I gotta have variety. I have to have balance. Because, you know, like when we're kind of coming from the West, especially if you've lived like a middle-class lifestyle, you're not gonna be used to the pacing of the provinces. Especially if you're coming on a limited budget and you're sort of shutting yourself into a house in the province. You can get very, very complacent, very bored, and you know, sometimes people can get depressed very quickly, no matter how much they love their partner, their girlfriend or whatever, because they're just not used to it. It really is like a different pacing of life in the province. It really is. So it's just something you want to keep in mind. Basically to have like realistic expectations. And you know, I was saying this in the last video, I was talking about, you know, there's like groups of vulnerable foreigners that move out here. there's probably like, some studies say 400,000, other studies say 600,000 Americans here. I mean, there could very well be 1 million Americans here by 2034. That's a very strong possibility. So, you know, the other question is like, what types of foreigners are coming out here, right? For what reasons? And the purpose of the last video was to show that there is some groups of foreigners that are vulnerable. Now, ultimately, like us foreigners and expats, like we do have more responsibility of our choices, and we're responsible for the judgment that we use, the situations we get in. But if you're a vulnerable foreigner, somebody who's suffered like such traumas that I've spoken of, somebody that's maybe had a history of abuse, or, you know, mental struggles, or even like physical limitations, those populations are vulnerable for, you know, scammers and stuff. It's just the way it is. And, you know, most of the Filipino culture is lovely. Okay, there's many fantastic women and families out here. But we got to acknowledge the reality that in a population with 110 plus million people, I mean, there's going to be some bad players, okay? And foreigners do get really hurt out here. So, you know, I did that video and I was talking about that old man that got, you know, he got isolated and beaten up by his partner, and I guess his wife was still married or something. So they basically, you know, beat this guy to death, sadly. And, you know, one of the commenters was like, well, this is just like an overly negative video, you know, as it's very glass half empty. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but it is. It's hard to sort of like put a positive spin on a video when you're talking about horrible tragedies that some foreigners have been through. And the fact is, like, some foreigners don't deserve it, you know? But yeah, ultimately, like, we're responsible for what we get into out here because we do have choices. So there's no reason why more people can't succeed. And I think, like I said, it's just, I don't mean to give advice because I'm not like the expert. I'm not even saying I've lived a great life, but I do have experience in this game. I have more skin, you know, like I have a Filipino son. I've met different Filipinos. I'm building a house out here currently. It's almost done. So, you know, I've seen some stuff out here. I've seen what works and what doesn't. You know, again, a lot of it is the budget. A lot of it is the relationship. You don't want to get isolated out here either, you know. Sometimes, like, you know, foreigners are trying to get away from their homeland. They no longer want to associate with their sort of fellow countrymen and stuff like that. But it's unwise to isolate yourself, okay? Especially if you're living in the provinces or, you know, outside of a major expat community like in Dumaguete or something, because I'm telling you, the feeling of isolation is very real in the province, especially if you don't know people. So it's something you really want to think twice about. And like, you don't have to have a lot of foreigner friends necessarily, but you do want to have like acquaintances. You want to have people that you can talk to, people that can help you, you know, with like little things if you need help. And you know, the reason you don't want to be friends with every foreigner is because we have to acknowledge that some of the people that come out here are highly problematic, you know, some of the foreigners. And that's just the way it is. You know, like on my vlog in like the past, in 2024, I was always doing a lot of cultural comparisons between the East and the West, you know, like why Americans have trouble assimilating or adapting to the Philippines culture and stuff like that, some of the differences. And a lot of it is rooted in like expectations, individualism, materialism, consumerism, you know, basically a lot of the isms. And that's like really real, man. So yeah, man, I mean, like a little bit of expectations and judgment, like more of us can do better out here because, you know, the tragic stories are quite real. And like I said, if you're an older man that's in that vulnerable population, you don't sort of want to slowly get bled out here, metaphorically, right? Because, you know, folks, this isn't a third world country, it's a developing country, but we have to acknowledge that like systematic poverty is a very, very real thing, okay? Now, granted, most Filipinos, are content and they're happy people, resilient people, tough people. But in dire poverty, you're going to have some pockets of the population that are, potentially dangerous to foreigners. And that's a reality. So if you have, if you're vulnerable, if you're weak, if you're easily manipulated, you can get rolled out here pretty easily. It's kind of true. Some foreigners have soft hearts. They haven't seen such poverty or such conditions, and so when they first get here, they're overwhelmed, and some Filipinos can do a good job about overwhelming their men too, because some people will latch onto you, and that's just kind of the way it is. But maintain boundaries. Like, don't just jump in head first. Don't overpromise things to people you've met online that you haven't even met yet. Use some common sense. Don't just start going into business with like expats or even Filipinos. Like, I wouldn't even come out here with that mindset, and like, if you want to run a bar or something like that, from what I've seen, it's usually a bad idea. Like, the whole bar situation attracts tons of drama, We've seen that a lot. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I hope that helps. And I hope that, with this vlog and other vlogs, we'll see more of a positive impact on tourism, hopefully. Who knows? But it's really up to us. So let's look out for one another. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. And have a good New Year, ladies and gentlemen. Be good. It's Captain Trucker. Take care. Bye-bye.